So yesterday we talked about a preliminary reaction to Alabama sealing not only the commitment of Terrion Arnold, but making it official with the commitment of Kamar Wheaton that they had the #1 recruiting class in the history of recruiting, and we have got to get into it. But before we do, y'all, as always, I want to hear from y'all. Which recruit out of this class do you think is going to make an instant impact? Which one out of the class do you think is going to be the one to really pull ahead and be able to impact the team day one? Drop down in the comments and let me know, because I can't wait to hear what y'all are thinking. If you're already here, y'all, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I do constant college football content, talk videos like this, player analysis, film analysis, and we're on our push to 2,000 subscribers, and I'd love to have you along for the journey. Drop a like, and like I said, comment down below, because likes and comments go a long ways in helping channels like mine get picked up by the YouTube algorithm. But today, I wanted to talk about an in-depth look at Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting class. You know, we've talked before about how they could be the greatest recruiting class of all time, and then we talked a little bit yesterday that they were the greatest recruiting class of all time. But now I want to peel away the layers, per se, right? I want to forget about the stars. I just want to talk about why, in its completeness, this class stands on a pantheon of its own. If we're talking building a college football program, recruiting is the backbone of any college football program. You can't develop talent unless you have talent. Now, it just so happens Alabama has an uncanny ability to not only recognize talent, but then to be able to develop talent. If you look at who Alabama is sending to the league in the troves at which they are sending guys, not only in the first round, but into the NFL in its entirety, it makes it completely reasonable when you look up and see that Alabama has the most active NFL players. It's because Alabama has become a factory to the NFL. And I bring up that recruiting is the backbone to being able to continue success or even being able to generate success. As important as development is, it is a hand in hand, a yin and a yang. It's hard to develop what's not there. However, you have to have the talent. You could almost build a starting roster out of the recruiting class that the University of Alabama just got. I'll start at the offensive line because that's something that I've been hollering about. For the OGs on this channel, you'll know I've been hollering about this offensive line since back in October. This is the greatest offensive line class ever in the history of recruiting. You have two of the top 5 players in the nation both playing tackle. Then you have the #1 center, the #2 guard, who Terrence Ferguson is an individual who I think kind of gets lost in the mix, and I think we don't really give him the due credit of how talented he is. The entirety of the Alabama recruiting class on this offensive line could be guys that are all starting at one point. This recruiting class up front is building something that is going to last. It is building something that is at the basic identity of Alabama football. The reason you have to be so excited about that, independent of the rest of the class, is because you just turned the keys over to the heir apparent, who we all presume will take the job, is a Bryce Young. Bryce Young having unlimited talent. Bryce Young is special in the sense that he can be on the move, he can be off balance, and he can throw from a weird arm angle and still deliver an accurate throw that most guys can't. It's something that Spencer Rattler does that really allows him to separate himself, and it's what allowed him to carry so much allure, and they both have that ability. It's almost like most of your guys who play quarterback that played baseball. But you want to know what else helps a new quarterback in a system, aside from having a phenomenal offensive line? 2 things. An incredible running back, which Alabama has a stable of running backs, but Alabama has been built around the big guys up front and the running back at the back end, and they add in the second best running back in the nation, Kamar Wheaton, who I actually think there's a path for him to crack the rotation year 1. That's how talented he is. But you know what else helps? Not only when you sign the best offensive line class in the history, the second best running back in the nation. Oh yeah, but if you're talking about the top 10 receivers in the nation, Alabama nabbed 40% of them. 5-star Ja'Cory Brooks, Ajayi Hall, Christian Leary, and JoJo Earl. And it's awesome to just name drop and say 5-star, 4-star, 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 and that's 40% of the top 10. But when you look at how these guys are going to play off of each other's abilities, it's incredible. Ja'Cory Brooks is a big-time, big body receiver who high points the ball, but has got some really nice moves for someone his size, and the same can be said for Ajayi Hall. Christian Leary has unmatched speed, and JoJo Earl has twitchiness and explosiveness that is going to be hard to keep off the field early. Already, just talking about Kamar Wheaton and then those receivers, you have a lot of explosiveness in the return game. Just think about the impact these guys can have punt, kickoff. Already, you have some of the most explosive athletes in the nation on this Alabama offense. To go along with the greatest offensive line class of all time, an awesome running back, and an awesome set of receivers. And we haven't even talked about the defense, because a year after the Alabama Crimson Tide recruited Malachi Moore and Brian Branch, and they blossomed, they follow that up when they're going to be losing Patrick Surtain with an incredible DB class. They get the number 1 cornerback in the nation, JaQuincy McKinstry, who I actually do believe he and Kyrie Jackson are going to be competing for Pat Surtain's job. I think Malachi Moore will probably stay where he is. I think there was a possibility Malachi could slot back to safety, but I actually think Terrion Arnold will get some rotation at that safety play. Terrion Arnold has an real ability, but it didn't just stop with the secondary. It started with the defensive front. Damon Payne, 5-star defensive tackle, looks to come in and add instant depth in rotation to the Alabama defensive front. You see a theme I'm painting here. What Nick Saban and the Crimson Tide coaching staff did here was create a team that could go out there right now and contribute in a multitude of ways. And it's funny when the adage is always, don't go to Bama, you won't play as a freshman. You look at the nature of this recruiting class, the positions Alabama is losing, and you see a path for a lot of guys to contribute. Damon Payne along that defensive front, which is a staple of the Alabama Crimson Tide defense, being able to rotate defenders out. He looks to come in and add an instant depth up front. Dallas Turner, another guy. When in the modern age of college football, when these offenses are so spread out and so explosive, you need guys like Dallas Turner to go and get the quarterback, to get back there quick, which is the entire reason why I was so high on Will Anderson and will remain high on Will Anderson. I think he's probably one of the best defenders in the SEC, if not the best defender in the SEC. You know, and the craziest part is it didn't end there. They also signed one of the top inside linebackers in the nation, and they signed really 2 of the top inside linebackers in the nation. I'm from the North Texas area, so I've gotten to see Kendrick Blackshire play, and I promise you, if he was able to put together full seasons instead of getting injured, he would have been a 5-star and one of the most coveted prospects in the nation, which he already was while having a bit of an injury history. It's stuff like that that is able to separate Alabama's class. Not only the 5-stars, but when you look at the rank of the players in their position, you have Dallas Turner, the number 1 weak side defensive end. You have the number 2 tackle in the nation. You have the number 1 tackle in the nation, who are both top 5 players. You have the number 1 cornerback in the nation, the number 1 quarterback out of the state of Texas, the number 1 inside linebacker out of the state of Texas, the number 1 center in the nation, the number 2 guard in the nation, the number 1 receiver out the state of Texas, a top 3 receiver, 4 of the top 10 receivers. I think you'll get the theme I'm painting. Alabama and Nick Saban continued their dominance in college football, and it isn't going anywhere. And for us Tide fans, I think we need to take a moment and take a breath and have a deep moment of appreciation for what Nick Saban and this Alabama Crimson Tide recruiting staff have done, because this is a work of art on this class. But I can't wait to hear from y'all. Drop down in the comments, let me know which players you think will contribute early and why this class is so incredible. That's it. See ya.